They mocked him for years, called him names, pushed him aside, treated him like he was nothing. But on the day trouble approached the village, this poor boy looked up, and what he saw from afar changed everything. You're watching Folktales by Chisom, where every story teaches, surprises, and stays with you forever. Sit tight, relax, and enjoy the story. The morning Chibuike's life changed forever began with a strange stillness, a kind of silence that even the wind respected. Umuigwe village had just woken from sleep, the cock's crow still hanging in the air, when the sun slowly rose and cast a soft glow across the mud houses, bamboo fences, and red sand paths. Yet something about that particular dawn felt different. It was as though the sky itself was watching, waiting for something or someone to step into destiny. And that someone was Chibuike, the boy whose neck rose higher than any boy his age, a neck so long that travelers passing through would stop and stare as though they were looking at a mystery the gods carved by mistake. His strange appearance had made him the center of jokes since the day he learned how to walk. Children laughed behind him, adults whispered, and strangers nudged one another with curiosity. But nothing prepared him for the humiliation he faced that morning at the village stream. He was only trying to fetch water before school. The sun had barely stretched its arms across the sky when he reached the riverbank, balancing his mother's clay pot. As he knelt by the water, the cool breeze brushing his skin, he felt peaceful for a moment, until he sensed the familiar shift, the rustle of feet behind him. It was the other village boys. They always came in groups, always waited until he was alone, always planned their jokes with the same cruelty that made them laugh afterwards. But today, they were louder than usual, running, whispering, snickering. Their shadows grew longer as they approached, like dark spirits dancing across the water. Chibuike didn't turn around. He had learned that reacting only encouraged them. Still, the first taunt echoed loudly across the stream. Not spoken, not shouted, but sung. A mocking chorus. A song they made just for him. The words bounced through the forest, sharp enough to slice through pride. Even the birds stopped chirping, as though they too felt second-hand shame. Chibuike inhaled deeply, feeling that familiar sting, the sting of being different in a world that feared differences. He kept his eyes fixed on the water, watching the surface ripple, as though it was trying to comfort him. But then, something unusual happened. While the boys mocked and danced, Chibuike's neck, long, flexible, and strangely powerful, rose slightly as he lifted his face from the stream. His instinct told him to look outward, far beyond the stream, beyond the thickets, beyond the stretch of red terrain. And that was when he saw it. Movement, distant, unnatural, wrong. At first he thought it was an illusion, the kind that heat creates when it dances above the sand, but his sight was sharper than any ordinary boy's. What he saw was real, and it was coming from the hill beyond the boundaries of Umuigwe. 3 silhouettes, fast, deliberate, approaching. He blinked again. No, not just 3, more. Shadows multiplying behind the bushes like a slow-moving tide. Something dangerous, something the rest of the village could not see yet, was creeping towards them. A shiver ran down Chibuike's spine. The boys behind him were still singing, laughing, splattering water, completely unaware that danger was moving their way. But Chibuike saw it, clearer than daylight, farther than any normal eyes could reach. For the first time in his life, he wished deeply that someone would believe him, because what was coming towards their peaceful village was not ordinary. It was the beginning of something that would change every life in Umuigwe forever.
Danger has a way of crawling silently into places where laughter is loudest. And that morning, while the village boys mocked Chibuike at the stream, danger crept closer, quiet, patient, and invisible to every eye except his. The mocking song eventually faded, not because the boys became tired, but because Chibuike suddenly stood still, so still that it unsettled them. His long neck stretched upward, slowly, like a tall palm assessing the clouds. His body remained rooted to the riverbank, yet his gaze traveled far beyond the reach of ordinary vision. The sight before him tightened his chest. The shadows he had spotted earlier were no longer distant. They were moving with purpose, weaving through the bushes with a coordination that could only mean trouble. Their silhouettes were strange, too organized for hunters, too swift for farmers, and too armed-looking for harmless travelers. Chibuike's heartbeat grew uneven. He could see flashes of metal, the glint of machete edges catching the sunlight, the flicker of torches that should not be burning at such a calm hour. Each glint was like a warning sign from fate. He leaned forward, stretching his neck farther, scanning every inch of the far path. The figures were becoming clearer, men with covered heads, moving in tight formation, like they had studied the village layout long before the sun rose. They were approaching Umuigwe directly. But behind Chibuike, the boys remained unaware, splashing water, tossing pebbles, and celebrating their little moment of meanness. To them, danger was a thing of folk tales told around night fires. They could not imagine that real danger had chosen this very morning to arrive. But Chibuike knew. A strange coldness settled inside him, the kind that comes when fear and responsibility combine. He took a step backward from the river, heart pounding not from humiliation anymore, but from the weight of what he had seen. Every instinct inside him whispered that time was running out. He needed to alert someone, anyone. But the familiar dread washed over him. Would they listen? Would they take him seriously? The villagers never believed anything he said. They dismissed his warnings, mocked his unusual abilities, and interpreted every strange thing about him as a curse or an exaggeration. Still, he knew he had no choice. The shadows were moving faster now. And suddenly, he noticed something else, something so chilling that it froze him in place. The formation of the approaching men wasn't random. They moved with precise steps, spreading outward like a net preparing to trap something. Their leader, a taller figure dressed in dark cloth, raised one hand, and instantly the others slowed their pace. That single signal revealed everything. This was not a regular group. This was not accidental. This was a coordinated mission. And Umuigwe was the target. The boys behind Chibuike were still laughing, their voices blending with the gentle stream. Life carried on normally around him, unaware that destruction marched steadily toward the village. Chibuike knew he could not waste another second. His long neck bent downward as he grabbed the clay pot and rushed up the narrow pathway that led toward the village square. His legs moved quickly, kicking dust into the air. His mind raced faster than his steps. He wasn't running from humiliation anymore. He was running from the future he had just witnessed. A future that could swallow the entire village if someone didn't act. And for the first time in his life, Chibuike realized something terrifying but true. The safety of Umuigwe might depend on the one person the village respected the least.
Chibuike reached the village square breathless, his feet kicking up dust as he stumbled into the open space where morning activities had just begun. Women were spreading cassava on woven mats, hunters were returning from early forest rounds, and elders sat beneath the ancient Udala tree discussing matters of the land. Everything looked peaceful. Everything felt ordinary. But Chibuike knew the peace was only a thin cloth covering something dangerous beneath. His eyes scanned the people, searching for anyone who might understand the urgency pulsing inside him. But all he saw were familiar faces, faces that had never taken him seriously, faces that had laughed at him just yesterday, faces that believed his long neck was more of a joke than a useful trait. He stood still for a moment, trying to gather courage. The memory of the approaching shadows burned in his mind. They were closer now, he could feel it, even without seeing them. His strange gift had always allowed him to sense distant movements, a quiet instinct woven deep inside him like a hidden thread. But how could he convince people who had spent years mocking him? His heart thumped violently against his chest. The weight of the morning's discovery pressed heavily on his shoulders. The breeze shifted suddenly, carrying with it the faint smell of burning grass, something that did not belong in a peaceful morning. Chibuike's neck instinctively lifted higher, scanning the far end of the village from where the wind blew. His vision pierced beyond the farms, beyond the footpaths, beyond the palm trees that lined the boundary of Umuigwe. A flicker of movement caught his eye, then another. The approaching figures were no longer distant shadows. They had grown clearer, more defined, their silhouettes cutting sharply against the rising sun. The leader's tall frame stood out like a dark spear point, guiding the others behind him. A silent tension filled Chibuike's lungs. They were closer than he thought, closer than the village had time to prepare for. His breath trembled. The moment to act was slipping away. He stepped deeper into the village square, forcing himself between woven baskets, firewood piles, and startled villagers going about their morning routines. Though no one said a word to him, their eyes followed his strange posture, his long neck stretching in an unnatural curve as he tried to gauge the distance of the threat. A few children giggled softly, nudging one another. A market woman paused, shaking her head in pity. An elderly man merely sighed, believing Chibuike was simply being himself again. But none of them understood what he carried inside him. Inside him was fear. Inside him was clarity. Inside him was responsibility he never asked for. Chibuike's chest tightened as he imagined what would happen if no one believed him, if the village remained unprepared. The thought of innocent people being caught unawares made his legs tremble. A single drop of sweat slid down his cheek. Time was running out. He took one more desperate look beyond the far trees, and the truth hit him like a blow. The men in the shadows had changed formation. They were no longer walking. They were advancing, faster, stronger, more determined. Chibuike's lungs filled with the cold rush of realization. If he didn't find a way to make the village understand, if he didn't convince someone, anyone, Umuigwe would be swallowed by disaster, and he would be forced to watch it happen.
The morning sun had barely risen high when the first unsettling sign appeared. Something none of the villagers could ignore, not even those who dismissed Chibuike's warnings. A loud cry shattered the peace. It came from the northern farmland. Women dropped their baskets, men abandoned their chores, young boys scattered in confusion. Chibuike, who had been standing quietly near the village square, felt his heart clench. This cry was not ordinary. It carried fear, raw, sharp fear. Villagers rushed toward the farmland, forming a crowd around the trembling farmer who had screamed. His yam storage hut had been broken into, not smashed randomly, not destroyed by animals, but caught deliberately,
neatly, as though someone had used sharp blades with careful intention. The farmers examined the scene. Fresh footprints circled the hut, some large, some narrow, all leading out of Umuigwe and into the bush. The villagers murmured nervously. Chibuike's neck rose, not out of fear, but awareness. He scanned the tree line. For a brief moment, he saw movement, a figure slipping silently behind a cluster of bushes, then another. They were close, much closer than he expected. He swallowed. This was no longer just a feeling, no longer shadows in the distance, no longer a boy crying wolf. Danger had arrived. Suddenly, goats ran bleating across the path, breaking their ropes. A basket of palm kernels toppled from a woman's hands. Even the birds, usually perched on the iroko tree, flew away in chaotic circles. Nature was reacting. Something was wrong. One of the elders finally spoke, his voice tight. "This is not normal. Someone was here. Someone watched us." It was the first time an adult admitted it. But before anyone could act, a second shock hit the village. A hunter burst into the square, stammering, panting, terrified. His trousers were torn, his arm bleeding from a fresh cut. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. They chased me." "Who?" the villagers demanded. But the hunter pointed shakily toward the thick trees bordering Umuigwe. Not animals, not spirits, not imagination. People. Armed people. He had seen them while checking his traps, crouched low, hiding in the brush, marking the village paths with chalk symbols. Scouts. Trackers. Preparing for something bigger. The villagers panicked, but Chibuike did not. His long neck slowly lifted, rising above the heads of everyone present. His eyes scanned the horizon with precision no one else possessed. From that height, he saw them. At least 6 figures creeping along the forest boundary, moving with coordinated steps. He stiffened. This was no rumor, no speculation, no false alarm. The enemy was closing in. And this time, they were not hiding.
The sun had barely set when the village of Umuigwe descended into an uneasy silence. No drums played, no laughter drifted from the huts. Even the festival of whispers was abruptly abandoned. Everyone felt it, the tension in the air, the heaviness pressing against their skin, the quiet that comes when the world is holding its breath. Chibuike sat near the entrance of his family's hut, his long neck rising every few minutes as he scanned the horizon. He hadn't spoken all evening, but his eyes never stopped searching. Then, something changed. A sound, faint, unfamiliar, drifted from the northern edge of the village. Not footsteps, not animal cries, something sharper, faster, like metal brushing against metal. Chibuike's body stiffened. He rose slowly, his neck extending higher, until he saw what the darkness tried to hide. Shadows were moving. Not 3 or 5, but dozens. They crawled from the forest like a dark wave, spreading outward with terrifying silence. Chibuike gasped. This was not preparation, not scouting, not intimidation. The attack had begun. Before he could warn anyone, the first strike hit. A flaming torch soared over the treetops and crashed onto the roof of an abandoned hut, exploding into bright fire. Sparks flew, lighting up the night sky. Villagers screamed and scattered. Women grabbed their children. Men shouted in confusion. Elders stumbled to their feet, gripping their staffs. But the invaders were already sprinting forward. Chibuike could see everything clearer than anyone else. Every formation, every movement, every attacker slipping through the shadows. His long neck tilted sharply as he tracked them. One group circling toward the livestock pen, another closing in on the central square, a third moving with deadly speed toward the huts. The attackers were coordinated, frighteningly so. Umuigwe was surrounded. "Block the paths!" one of the men shouted, but he didn't know where to block. The enemy was everywhere. A young boy tripped while running. Chibuike didn't think. He moved. His long neck reached forward first, spotting a figure emerging from the shadows behind the boy. Chibuike lunged, grabbed the boy's arm, and yanked him out of the path just before a machete sliced through the air. The blow missed the child by inches. The boy screamed and ran. Chibuike's heart hammered. This was real. This was happening. Suddenly, a loud horn blasted from the forest. Deep, thunderous, commanding. It shook the night. The leader had arrived. Chibuike lifted his neck higher and saw him clearly for the first time. A tall man dressed in dark cloth, eyes painted red, carrying a long spear that glimmered with firelight. He walked with slow, confident steps, unbothered by the chaos around him. Then he raised his spear. All the attackers froze. Every villager went silent. Even the wind stopped moving. Then the leader pointed his spear directly at Umuigwe's central square, and all at once, the attackers charged. This was no longer about sensing danger, no longer about warnings or suspicions. This was war. And the boy they mocked for years, the boy with the strange neck, was the only one who could see enough to save them. The attackers stormed into Umuigwe like a flood of shadows, their torches blazing and weapons flashing under the night sky. Villagers scattered in every direction, some grabbing stones, others shielding their children, all trying desperately to find safety. But in the center of the chaos stood Chibuike. His long neck rose above the confusion like a watchtower, scanning every corner, every enemy movement, every threat. The heights that once made him a target of ridicule now gave him the vantage that could save them all. The enemy leader marched forward, spear raised, signaling his men to surround the square. Flames danced against the huts, casting monstrous shapes onto the ground. A group of attackers broke off and charged toward the women and children, hiding near the yam barn. Chibuike saw them first. He didn't think, he moved. Left side, he screamed, pointing urgently with his long neck stretched in their direction. The village warriors, who were confused and overwhelmed, finally looked where he pointed. They blocked the approaching attackers just in time, clashing in a burst of sparks and shouts. Another wave of enemies slipped toward the livestock area, trying to cut off the main escape path. Chibuike's head whipped in their direction. Behind the goats, they are circling. Again, the warriors followed his sight, rushing to intercept. 2 attackers were captured, the rest fled back into the shadows. For the first time that night, Umuigwe fought back with strategy, his strategy. But the leader of the attackers noticed. He stepped into the open, his torchlight illuminating his red-painted face. His eyes followed the villagers' reactions. Then he saw the truth. He saw the boy with the long neck controlling the defense of an entire village. He hissed and pointed his spear directly at Chibuike. 3 attackers broke from formation, sprinting toward him with raised machetes. Chibuike froze for half a heartbeat, then instinct took over. His legs moved before he could think. He darted between huts, his long neck weaving around wooden posts as he ran. But he couldn't run far. The attackers closed in, trapping him against an overturned green basket. Just when the first machete swung down, something unexpected happened. The wind changed. A violent gust exploded through the square, strong enough to bend the flaming torches and send dust spiraling into the attackers' eyes. They stumbled back, disoriented. Chibuike's head rose reflexively, and what he saw made his heart jump. From the ridge, from the very hill he saved Odenigbo on, villagers from neighboring communities were arriving, armed and united. Someone had seen the fire, someone had understood the danger, and someone had run to call for help. The attackers hesitated, their leader snarled, sensing the shift in momentum. He raised his spear one last time, but before he could signal the retreat or attack, the combined shout of Umuigwe's warriors and the arriving reinforcements filled the air. It was over. The attackers fled into the forest, abandoning their weapons, disappearing into darkness. Silence fell over Umuigwe. The flames from burning huts crackled softly. Children cried. Women embraced one another. Warriors exhaled heavily, covered in dust and sweat. Then slowly, every head turned toward Chibuike, the boy who warned them, the boy who saw everything, the boy they mocked, insulted, humiliated, now standing tall, literally and symbolically, above the village he saved. Odenigbo, who had once led the teasing, stepped forward. He didn't speak, he didn't need to, he simply knelt. And one by one, the entire village followed. Mothers, fathers, warriors, children, elders. They bowed to Chibuike not out of worship, but out of gratitude and shame. The elder raised his staff as a breeze passed through, gentle and warm, like a blessing carried by the ancestors. Tonight, he said, somehow, Umuigwe stands because of the eyes of the boy who sees farther than all of us. Chibuike felt warmth swell in his chest. For the first time, his long neck didn't feel like a curse. It felt like purpose, like destiny. That night that nearly destroyed Umuigwe became the night that finally revealed who Chibuike truly was. Not a joke, not a mistake, not a boy to laugh at, but a guardian, a watchtower in human form. And from that day on, no one in Umuigwe ever mocked his long neck again.